Hello, Traveler fans. We're here to talk about Deck Plans Volume 1 and a exciting add-on available for the Traveler 5e Backer Kit campaign that's going on right now. This is called Critical Locations, and I'm here today with lead designer Tim Brown, production manager John Goodenough, and cartographer AJ Smith. How are you guys doing today?
We're good, man. Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
Always. I mean, I love Traveler and I love talking. So this just combines, two things that I really enjoy.
Great.
Now, deck plans in a sci-fi game, they're going to serve a lot of different purposes, right? They're going to be like a visual representation for the crew so they know where people are, but right, boarding actions can and do happen. What is kind of the purpose of this map set that you've put together, Tim?
Sure. Well, obviously, we want to get maps out there and deck plans that people can use with their miniatures, and that's primarily what Deck Plans Volume 1 Critical Locations is about. Everybody that's familiar with Mongoose's Traveler to this point, every spread or 2-pagers or whatever is devoted to any given starship or small craft has a strategic level deck plan that you can use for most role-playing situations to say, okay, well, here's where the bridge is relative to the staterooms and the power plant and things like that. And you can do most of your role playing there. Okay, we're here, we're going to move over there. So a lot of that contextual stuff can happen on that scale of map. And we'll continue to do that for all of the new ships and small craft that are coming out in Traveler 5e that we're making now.
What makes this deck plan book different than kind of what's come before?
Well, the deck plan book has 50 locations, and they're all laid out on a 1-inch grid. And we also have a handy reference. And so the game master can just look at a reference on the type of location that is the best fit and just easily flip to the map. It lays perfectly flat. And everything is compatible with 5th edition because it's all on a 1-inch grid. One thing to note, though, is the maps have such a large variety. I mean, it's perfect fit for Traveler, but you can also use it for any campaign setting, any science fiction. We're going to have alien worlds, interesting landscapes. I mean, you could use it for pretty much any game if you're not restricted to your imagination.
Well, that's good because I'm plotting 2 different sci-fi campaigns, and so the fact that these are be useful to other scenarios makes it even more valuable to me as a GM. Now, you said 1-inch grid, and I know there are 28 millimeter miniatures. We talked with Austin last time about that. So these are kind of designed to work hand in hand, right?
Absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely. We have adventure miniatures, and so you can play your characters on the grids. We also have Army, Navy, Marine, starport security. So you could either use those as characters or NPCs. So tons of variety and more coming out too. So.
All right.
Yeah, awesome. Well, and if you want to know more about the miniatures, go check out the last video that we posted in a previous update, because that's where we talk about them. We even show them off in the video. Okay, so perfect. So why did you guys decide to call this one Critical Locations?
Yeah, so role-playing leads to tactical situations, whether it's you're negotiating with people or it's an investigation. And often that leads to combat or tactical, escape, whatever that is. We wanted to give people critical locations that they're going to run into commonly in a science fiction Traveler 5e setting, where those things that might happen, and it's time to just break out the miniatures.
What we're hoping to do with this map book is not just give you 50 exciting locations to explore, but in addition to the maps, we also have guides. It's kind of like a guidebook for game masters. So we have a section that gives descriptions, and that has a number of different story seeds. So it's intended to spark inspiration. So you not only can read through, but hopefully that actually gives you ideas of how to weave these into your story, and give you, ideas of what to explore as you're exploring the map. The other handy reference is we also have a grid system, and how this works is if you are in the middle of adventure and let's say you explore a planet and you're looking for a desert planet that has some alien technology, you can look at the grid and see, what is in, an alien world that has technology. So that grid actually becomes a very handy reference on the fly to look up exactly the map that will be the perfect fit for your adventure.
All right.
Very cool. That sounds very handy.
So yeah, it's places that we're giving largely happen on starships. A lot of traveler 5e activity takes place on starships. So we're providing, again, critical locations like such as the engineering section of a ship, or a sick bay, or a large bridge, or maybe where the cargo hold offices are, things that are available around a ship.
Right. And we're also going to be doing off-ship locations, obviously. John was talking about how, you can find a desert planet, but also spaceports and other locations that you're going to find while you're exploring the galaxy. And a big part of also going back to what John said about sparking inspiration, right? There's, the one of the maps I made already is a security checkpoint, and it's a very heavily armed security checkpoint into like a kind of police station, security station type place. And so, hopefully that sparks questions of, is this on a frontier planet, or is this in orbit around a frontier planet that's always under attack? Is this just a militaristic society? Like tell the story based upon what you can see in the map.
Well, and that's a good point. Like we want, hopefully the art that's in our role-playing books that we put together to inspire game masters. And yeah, I mean, that's the same thing for maps, right? Where could I use this map? Right. Is there something that I have planned that I could alter so that the story of the map and what's actually happening in the tactical location kind of merge together? So AJ, you're the main cartographer on this project, but this is not the first project that you have done maps like this for.
No, I've also done the Ultimate Toolbox map book for the world's largest dungeon, and also there's an upcoming map book for Space 1889 After from Strange Owl Games. And then before that, I did the maps for the Cloven Lands campaign setting from Quasi Real, which is the people that make Mythcraft. Mm-hmm. And I got tapped in to make the maps for that, and then Grant, who's in charge of Quasi Real, got me in touch with Tim, and now I'm here. So
awesome. All right. So what are some of the influences that you find yourself drawing from when you are making a map book like this?
Yeah, I obviously am. I grew up at the age where the re-releases of Star Wars, the original trilogy, were coming out, and I was young enough to not realize that Han should be shooting first. And so I genuinely enjoyed them until I got older and watched the originals. But so obviously, like the classic sci-fi, space fantasy stuff, but also overall, my influence for just creativity, Terry Pratchett and Douglas Adams.
Both great sources. Yeah.
And I just, because both of them always kind of beg the question of why something is the way it is.
Yep.
And the explanations can be completely outlandish, and that's where a lot of the humor comes from. But when I'm making a map or writing a story or working on an adventure, the most important question I ask myself is why? Mm-hmm. Why is this here? Why is even on down to in the space lounge map I made, the chairs are facing out to look at space, which could say something about the culture as opposed to everything being facing away from the windows, right? And kind of like how people view, whether it's this big grand, wow, look at this, or we're turning our backs to it to show that we're superior, right? Yeah. It's why because in the world, somebody built that.
Yeah.
Somebody made the decision to put that there. And so I like to be able to come up with reasons why, and that kind of helps build out the rest of the map and the story.
So what maps, you mentioned a starport lounge and a security subsystem. Yep. Are those maps done? And if so, what maps do you have completed already? What are you...
I've got those two done. And then there's also a deck plan for a ship that I put together. That's very... it's a luxury cruise liner type ship, and it's purposefully left without a lot of decor so that players can decorate it themselves. It's a little bit more of a blank slate than the other maps, because this is a ship that you as players could find and pilot, and so You don't want somebody else's artwork hanging in your stateroom.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Well, I mean, this sounds like these maps are going to be great for a variety of situations in a Traveler game.
That's the hope.
Actually, so with 50 maps, we're leaning towards making these as flexible and variable as possible. So with 50 maps, you're going to be able to cover just about any situation. But the really neat thing about the book format is these are lay flat maps on a spiral bound book. And so you fold the pages out for this, big, huge sprawling map. But the neat thing about the format of that is in the middle where the three ring binder is, it creates kind of a natural border. And so it in a way kind of splits the map into left side and a right side. And so, for example, let's say you have a secured hangar. And so on the right side, you have the spaceport hangar. And on the left side, you have, security guard station and, rack of guns and the security side of things. If you want just one thing, if you want just a hangar to explore, you can flip the book over and just have that right side of the page. If you're trying to raid a security center and get some guns and weapons, you can flip it over to the other side. So the neat thing is you can kind of customize these maps by just picking a side of the map and just play with what you need.
Very cool. So can we expect more map books in the future?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, science fiction and Traveler 5e, they're limitless. We'll do more planetary maps and weird terrain, the layers of like alien animals, exotic locales like a beanstalk or an archaeological dig on an alien world, asteroid communities, undersea habitats, space stations, you name it. We're eventually going to do those.
Now, I got to say, I understand the 1-inch squares because that's what's, typical for 5e, but when it comes to sci-fi games, I'm a 1-inch hex man when it comes to, battle maps. Is there any chance about getting 1-inch hex versions of these maps?
In the future, absolutely. We're constantly building new content, inventing new ships, and then on top of that, there's 200 plus books in the Traveler library, and so it really does feel like a galaxy to explore. And so that's the really exciting thing about working on this project is it just feels like endless possibilities.
Awesome.
Sure. 1-inch square deck plans for a Traveler ship, if it's a small ship, can easily fit on a single poster size sort of map. And we want to do that sort of thing going forward. Obviously, anybody knows the game, there's plenty of ships that are far larger than that. To depict every square on a great big 1,000-ton warship, for instance, would take several poster maps. And while we're not opposed to that, those will have to be all planned out and delivered in sets that we'll put probably in folders and release those as separate products. But yes, eventually we want to get complete ship deck plans out in tactical 1-inch squares so everybody can use them.
Okay. Well, it sounds like this is going to be an awesome product and an awesome addition to any Traveler 5e campaign. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us to talk about this.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.